stream. Go. Let's see if my internet will keep up with us. There goes something at least. Come on, video. Make it happen. I'm going to share it out on Twitter.
Twitter. Oh, let's see. I'm sure I've got to mute stuff.
272 is live.
There it goes.
There we go. You know, I feel like this computer is getting slower and slower. And I always ask this thing, I'm not doing anything different. For the past 5 years, all that this computer has done is the same podcast, the same, it's all been the same. And so why does it slow down? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't understand that either.
Yeah.
All things considered, it shouldn't be much of a drag to broadcast to YouTube.
Right?
But maybe it is. Who knows? Like I said, I bought the super duper internet and the thing lags all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And now mine is lagging with video and stuff.
There it is. Yeah, it's thinking.
Yeah. Go figure. Let me see. Maybe I have too much crap open.
They really hadn't done this in a while. It must be our awesome luck with Kelly and getting her podcasts recorded.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to switch over to the other internet, and it might blip on us for a moment, but I'm going to try it and see if that works any better. The experience any.
Well, it's doing something now.
Yep. Hopefully working slightly better. We'll see. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Nothing I can do about it from here. It's ring up.
How much of that did you actually hear, Kelly?
It looks like it's playing nice enough. So
amateur podcasting. Woo!
Yeah. Can you hear me all right, Sherwin?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Cool. All right. Well, while we've got, the bits flowing, why don't we just go ahead and get started? What do y'all think?
Why not? All
right. Kelly, you ready to roll?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Here goes nothing. We're recording now. Welcome, y'all! That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mirror Racing Podcast, episode number 272. It's Tuesday, December 15th, 2020. I'm Tailgate Mirror Rusty Wallace in the PTM Podcast Studio in Atlanta, Georgia. This podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. Go to patreon.com/PTM. Join the What You Drink Club for as little as $1 a month. Get that free koozie and some stickers. Best part is, every cent this year, we're once again donating to sponsoring drivers. So join the PTM Posse today. Be a part of the sport you love. This week's show brought to you by our official sponsors at that $5 and up per month level. They are Aaron Bearden, Robert Kedling, Holman, Clam, Kevin Moran, Kiefer, Patrick Cleary, Jeff Brown, Brandon Crock, Kathleen McDonald, Brandon Carl, Rika Porter, Julie Bosley, Eddie Greer, Third Younker Motorsports, David Mullins, Patrick Johnson, Brett Morris, Crystal Smoke, Red Rosato, Chad Knapp, Stacey Coleman, Lisa Chinana, Rick Houston, Sarah and Barry, Evan Roller, Matthew Bishop, Matthew Camper, Harry Bolzania, AJ Evangelista, Les Miller, and Jumpy Bob. Woo! That breath was intentional. I did not require it. But, wanted to make sure Jumpy Bob got his due. I see him hanging out with us on the YouTube feed and everything from the PETM North Carolina studio. Welcome to the show, pregame engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, dude?
Here we go, man. Last show before the big day.
Yeah.
With all the bright lights and the presents and the whatnots.
Yeah, the bright lights and the presents and everything. Here to help us out with the bright lights and the presents. Welcome back to the show for our 2020 penultimate broadcast. Journalist for Racer Magazine, host of the Racing Riders podcast on Twitter at Kelly Crandall. It's Bill Weathers. No, it's Kelly Crandall. What's up?
I'm good. I thought you were going to say for the 20th time that I was on the podcast, and I'm like, I've been on a lot, but I don't think I've been on that many times. And I think Sherwin and I could have probably done this in person because he's like a throne's stow away now from where we both live here in North Carolina.
Oh yeah, I've joked about it. I think on a real good day with a nice breeze, I could probably hit a golf ball to your apartment from mine.
That's funny.
So hopefully we can all get vaccinated up and we can actually do that. Because that would be fun.
Hit golf balls at each other?
Yes, exactly.
No, that's awesome. That sounds like fun. Kelly, you know what we do. What you drinking on tonight?
Nothing fancy, as always. I'm boring, although I could use some alcohol. But nope, nothing fancy. In fact, it's sticking with NASCAR tradition. It's actually, or NASCAR, the theme here, it's actually Sunny D. So
Sunny D. All right. Not the purple stuff. Sunny D.
No. No.
Oh, man. I wonder. Well, I think most of our listeners are of the age to recognize that reference at least. So. Sherwin, what you got tonight?
Still got some of this Voodoo Ranger from New Belgium at Asheville, so that's tasty.
I got the.
What you got?
I got the PETM normal here with the whiskey Coke, but it was my wife did a commencement this weekend for Georgia Tech, and it went off wonderfully, even with all the COVID-safe protocols and everything else, and having very little time to actually plan it. So when she got home, I made up some homemade queso dip and all kinds of fajitas and stuff, and went and bought a 6-pack of Dos Equis. So I'm going to have that on deck here, ready to roll for the second half of the PTM podcast tonight, once we get into the fun stuff. So that all said, Sherwin, speaking of the fun stuff, I'm starting with this. And by the way, if you're a family member of mine listening in, please turn it off now and then listen after Christmas, because this involves Christmas presents and stuff. But I figure I'm safe here. But I was trying to figure out what to get folks for Christmas this year, considering all the what have you that we talk about all the time, and to to further kind of I'll go further into Lebowski in a bit, but I figured something that was more like, instead of getting stuff and having to do this and that, I was like, I'm just going to make something. And so I found, I'm like, well, I have a smoker. I have a big green egg out back. So why don't I try something with that? And I saw about curing and smoking your own bacon. So I went to the farmer's market and I bought a 9-pound slab of pork belly, cut it into 3-pound each portions, and then I bought curing salt on Amazon. I'll tell you what, the curing salt, you buy a $7 bag of it. It comes with there's at least 2 cups worth in there, and for 9 pounds, I think I used 3 or 4 teaspoons, or no, 2 teaspoons. It was 4 half teaspoons is what I used. So that stuff will last you forever. And then cured it for the past 5 days, and last night smoked it and sliced off a little piece. And Sherwin, I'm telling you, homemade bacon is another world. I've never had homemade bacon before, but when I fried it off, that one little piece, me and the wife were just staring at each other with our mouths wide open.
I didn't even know homemade bacon was a thing. Obviously somebody has to prepare bacon so that you can go buy it at the store. Mm-hmm. But that does sound fun. Sounds like you got the berry bonds of salt going on there.
Yeah. Well, it's called pink curing salt, and they color it pink just to be hey, this is different from normal salt. But it's not the same as Himalayan cures cancer salt or whatever the mystics will tell you. So, but it's a different. It's like a powder. It's almost like cotton candy or something. It's really light. But yeah, you don't put hardly any in there, and yeah, like you said, it's a berry bonds. It juices it up. It does something wild in there, but yeah, after you smoke it, man, I tell you what, if y'all got a smoker out back, I'm looking at you, Brandon Crowd. You need to start making your own bacon, and not only that, but I think I paid $27 for the whole 9-pound thing. So that's what, $3 a pound for bacon, which I think currently at the grocery store it's about $10 a pound right now. So, it's not only better,
probably more than that. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
It ain't cheap.
Yeah.
I bought some of that super thick stuff that Smithfield sells, and it was $9 for 12 slices.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not one of those super bacon aficionado meme type of people, but I'll tell you what, for about I don't know, 30 minutes last night I was after eating it. Like, all right, bacon, everything. What can we put this in? So yeah. Anyway, I'm giving that to all the fellas on my list, and so that made it nice and easy. Rusty just knocked out a bunch of presents right there off the top. So happy to be done with that. Kelly, how's your Christmas shopping going?
We're having kind of a tame Christmas this year, so we're not getting too crazy. We're keeping it low key. So actually, we're gonna spend a few days this weekend with Chris's family, and then I'm gonna come back, get myself situated, take care of some things, and then have to make the drive up to New Jersey to see my family. So,
oh man.
Other than that, we're keeping it low key in terms of presents and going crazy, because I went really, really nuts last year with presents and kind of overdid it a little bit between Chris and my younger sister had come to visit, so going crazy with her, and one of my friends came to visit. So this year it's more low key and not as crazy under the Christmas tree.
Now, what does crazy entail? How crazy did we get?
So we spent Christmas here in North Carolina last year for the first time. Normally, I had been with my family, or we had been with his family, and we just decided to stay here ourselves. And then one of my good friends from back home in New Jersey actually came down to visit and brought my youngest sister. So it was a few presents for Chris. It was a few presents for my friend. It was a few presents for my younger sister. So it was jam-packed under the Christmas tree, because like I said, I just kind of went a little crazy. I was just so excited to have them here. So I was making sure I took care of everybody.
Nice. Sherwin, how's your shopping going?
The shopping has not taken place yet, which is fairly standard behavior for me. I've purchased at least 80% of all presents the last, I want to say, 6 or 7 years on Christmas Eve. I'm gonna do a little better than that this time, but it's not gonna get too wild around our house either. I got a rule of thumb. Thankfully, my parents don't listen to this, but they already know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna go to Dick's, and Mom and Dad are gonna get a golf shirt and some socks, and I'm going to buy them both a bottle of booze, and then we're going to call it a day.
There you go. There you go.
My sister and her husband are not coming back from Northern Ireland for all the obvious reasons, so they're not going to be around.
I feel like everybody kind of gets a little bit of a pass this year, right? Like, okay, this year, let's just figure out how to get through Christmas without killing each other for, I guess, on many levels, both health-wise and tearing each other's hair out wise. So, yeah, I feel like, we get through it. That's a good present right there in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean, I just discovered, because I don't know how to add or look at a calendar, evidently, that Christmas is not on Thursday. It's on Friday, which means that makes the travel part of the process a lot easier. Because I didn't have to figure out whether to take that Friday off or not. But yeah.
Yeah. So Sherwin, you're still registered to vote in Georgia, right?
There's a lot of paperwork out there that exists that suggests I'm still a Georgian. So I've been debating this back and forth quite a bit on how to figure out whether I should do that or not.
Yeah, yeah. Are you do you get the text messages?
No, I do not.
Oh, dude, let me tell you, it is every 15 minutes. I guarantee it's going to go off multiple times right here. And I've been just replying stop. And that at least takes me off that person's list. They've been pretty good about not retexting. But there's so many people who want to text out to you. And as it turns out, Georgia has this, pretty, important election coming up. So not to tip any hands in terms of political alignment or anything. But I finally today, I don't know, I was feeling snarky earlier. And I don't know if a human sits on the other side of this. But I did I talked about Lebowski a little while ago. I did take kind of a cue from Lebowski, and Sherwin knows. Kelly, are you a Lebowski fan? I should say.
Sure.
Sure. There's a story there. What does that mean?
Nope.
But the dude abides, is what you're saying. Anyway, so Sherwin, at the beginning where I won't go into the 4-letter words that go into it, but where they're dunking the dude's head in the commode and saying, "Where's the money, Lebowski?" And he finally goes, "It's down there somewhere. Let me take another look." Right. So I took a cue from that because they keep texting me, but with my sister's name, and I don't know how they keep associating me with my sister. Our phone numbers are similar, but like the last 4 digits are completely different. So it's not even, it's not like they're one number off or something like that. But they texted me, hey, my sister's name, it's blah 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 with blah blah blah. We need to do yada yada. Early voting is underway. What's your plan to vote? It said. Now I usually text stop, but again, feeling snarky, I said, I don't know, maybe I need another 1,000 texts to the wrong number to decide. So, I really hope there's a human on the other end of that reads that and like, oh.
My phone number must not be attached to my registration because I've never got one of those kind of texts.
Yeah. I'm getting them left and right, and like I said, finally, I really hope there's a human on the other end, and I hope they're Lebowski fans or something and kind of recognize it. All right, yep, he's messing with me. We'll see what happens. So, I don't know. I need another 1,000 texts to try to decide on this one. That's just not doing it for me. Anyway, Kelly, do you have any New Year's plans?
No, I don't think so. Again, I think we're staying pretty low key. So we with this virus, we really don't do much anyway. We're trying to be as safe as possible. So I highly doubt we'll get too crazy. We'll probably just stay home. I mean, maybe Chris and I might go somewhere, maybe for a day or two. I don't know. I mean, that's been tossed about. I don't think that's probably going to pan out. But no, nothing crazy. You'd be surprised at how boring we are. I'm the person that one year fell asleep before the ball dropped and then woke up after 1 o'clock and was like, oh, damn, I missed it.
Oopsie.
Well, I missed them too, but I was standing on 2 feet and some variation of awake.
Yeah. Kelly, there's a game we've played with a few of our guests, and I don't. What is your hometown? Where do you hail from originally? That's back home.
I am from a very small town in New Jersey called Spotswood, which is by East Brunswick and Monroe, and about 20 minutes from Rutgers. But it's hardly ever heard of. But it is Spotswood, New Jersey.
Okay.
How is it that you're supposed to pronounce Poughkeepsie or whatever that word is?
Poughkeepsie?
Yeah. It's there's a lot of silent letters in there and stuff going on. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's quite a few towns like that in New Jersey. There's Manasquan, Matawan, which always looks like Mawa. Yeah, there's a few of them that I think they're really close together, maybe in spelling, or they all look similar if you look really quick, and you can get them pretty confused. And I'm sure I probably mispronounced one because I'm thinking of one or the other, but even being from New Jersey, I've messed up quite a few towns up there. There's some tricky ones for sure.
So the game we play, I've just brought it up, and Spotswood is perfect for this because, being a small town, I go on to TripAdvisor, and don't cheat, but I go on to TripAdvisor, and I try to see what is the thing to do in your hometown. So what would you consider the top 3 places to go or places to eat when you're in Spotswood, New Jersey?
When I say small town, you're underestimating. Like it's small. Like there's a ShopRite and a Rite Aid and a bagel joint, Chinese, Carvel. I mean, that's literally it. Like it's so small. It doesn't have a mall. The mall's in the next town over. Got a lot of banks. We have a lot of banks.
A lot of banks.
But it's like it's really like 3 stoplights, to be honest with you. Like it's quite small. So there's nothing. Like I'm not even trying to downplay it. I'm trying to think. I mean, literally, the one of the biggest things that happened in our town when I was still in high school was they made we got like a strip mall on Main Street, and literally called Main Street. And that was like the most exciting thing because we got a Dunkin' Donuts and a Subway and a Verizon store or whatever it was. So no, there's literally nothing to do in Spotswood. Everybody goes to the other towns to do something. The movie theater's in another town. The mall's in another town.
Jeez, I feel like I grew up in a thriving metropolis.
No kidding.
I don't know what the actual square footage is, but I'm telling you, or square miles, but it's very, very tiny. Like I can do this in my head. I can make a right out of my street, go up to a stoplight, turn right, go down to another stoplight, turn left, go down to the stoplight, and then I'm out of the town. Like it's
Yeah.
it's very, very tiny.
I hear you, Sherwin. I feel like our 4 stoplights in Snellville, Georgia, was like I don't know, like must be like New York City or something. Now you mentioned a bagel joint. Was that Bagel One?
No, it's called. Well, last time I was there, it was still called Manhattan Bagel. I don't know if it's changed any, but that Manhattan Bagel is actually one of the more popular spots. And it's funny because now here in North Carolina, they have New York Bagel down the road here, and that's the closest I can compare it to feeling like I'm at home, the way that they do their bagels where you can go in and order exactly what you want. So down here it's called Taylor ham. At home it's pork roll. Pork roll, egg and cheese at home at Manhattan Bagel, and down here I have to go in and catch myself real quick to make sure I say it right when I go to the bagel joint to feel like I'm getting something that's familiar.
Well, so
you just spoke a foreign language to me, but that's okay. That's funny.
Well, so this is what I'm trying to get out of these types of conversations. That hey, look, there is a place where you can get a good bagel in Spotswood, New Jersey. Let's see. This it says there's a place called Regards Wholesale. This is on the if you want to go vacation. Here is the essential Spotswood. Regards Wholesale, and let's see. So you can go do your shopping at the wholesale joint. There's Otilia's Cafe, MJ's Bar, Restaurant and Bar and Grill, and the Mi Familia Authentic Mexican Cuisine. You've got authentic Mexican there in Spotswood, New Jersey.
Well, that's what they claim. I don't know if I've tried that one yet, to be honest with you. I think if I'm remembering correctly, I have to admit I haven't been home in quite a while. It's actually, I think it's been over a year since I've been home. So I don't know if I've tried that Mexican place. I believe it is actually where a diner used to be, if I'm thinking of the right one. So I do know what that one is. I haven't tried it yet. The MJ's yes, that is very popular. It's like I don't remember what it used to be, but yeah, it's very popular now. What was the other thing? I will say, so the one thing that we do have is very good Chinese food and very good pizza. There is if it's still there, again, I haven't been home in a while, but Taverna, the pizza place, has been there for decades, for years. I mean, it's quite the establishment, very well known, and they have everybody who's from New Jersey or from my area. If you mention Taverna, they know that place, and it's a staple, and they grew up on it, and they know exactly what it is. And whenever they're somewhere else, they will compare it to that pizza place.
So right here on TripAdvisor, Taverna della Pizza is listed. So that's a place. Now I will have to admit for you that Brunswick Square Mall is in East Brunswick. So that's a little further out. You mentioned the mall. You mentioned the movie theater. There's the Crystal Springs Family Water Park. Did you grow up going there at all?
Yeah, I've been there a few times. Not a lot because I was always lucky we had a pool in our backyard, so we didn't really go anywhere. We kind of stayed at home, but I have been there. That's 15, 20 minutes away, depending on traffic. Not too far, but yeah, that's one of the towns over.
There you go. So your hot destination of Spotswood, New Jersey. We've got it covered with the pizza, the bagels, just a short hop over to the mall and the water park, and do your shopping over at what did I call it? The Regards Wholesale. So they've got one review. It's one review and it's 5 stars. So, I trust that person, whoever it is.
I'm gonna have to look that up because again, I haven't been home in quite a while, so I don't know if that's new or if it's honestly just something I haven't heard of, or maybe they changed the name of what it used to be because I don't remember that.
Oh man, well, fantastic. I think we have wasted the requisite amount of time considering the lack of stuff going on in the NASCAR world, but we do have some stuff. Kelly, what's the stuff that you've been following? I've been following along on Racer, on the Racer magazine. And I mean, you've posted in the last week something like 8 or 10 articles, so you've been busy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been mostly news, right? Just a few driver changes for some of the Xfinity and truck stuff, and 23XI with their 5 founding partners, as they called them, that they rolled out yesterday. And I mean, a little bit of some feature stories and whatnot. I still have to do those, even though the season's over. But yeah, a little bit of news. I mean, last week was pretty busy with news. I think it was the schedule change was announced from Montana to Daytona. So I know that was in there last week, and some crew chief stuff, and again, some driver changes and things like that. So last week was pretty busy. But again, it's been mostly some news stuff. I haven't really jumped into too many feature type things yet here in the off season. I've kind of been taking it easy.
So is the official name, am I supposed to say 23XI team or 2311? I keep looking at it, and because that I looks like an L, I keep seeing it, and in my mind I say 23XL, and I know that's wrong. But
so you caught me. You actually, thank you for pointing that out. I said it wrong, and
okay.
I said it like that because I've been writing it so often over the last 2 days that when I write it, I have to remind myself what buttons I am hitting.
Yeah.
But it is pronounced 2311 racing.
Okay.
So that is my goof, just because of how I've been writing it the last couple of days, just reminding myself of what keys to hit on the keyboard.
I didn't mean to call you out. I figured I was just being
a
dope.
That's good. That's like I said, it's good. I have to break that habit before I say it out loud, because then I'm gonna, people are gonna look at me like I have 6 heads. It's pronounced 2311, which I like that name, honestly. I think it sounds great.
Yeah.
It's just when I say it in my head when I'm writing it, I say 23XI, and that is not how you pronounce it.
Well, you had mentioned it. It's the founding partners: DoorDash, McDonald's, Columbia Sportswear, Dr. Pepper, and Root Insurance. It's like kind of like one of these things is not like the other. I don't know who Root Insurance is, but no, Sherwin. I mean, I guess I'm not surprised with the amount of media attention and the amount of star power that this team is bringing, that they are fully funded. But it's still one of those really cool things to hear coming out of a 2020 like the one that we've had, to see a team get fully funded that's brand new and has a spotlight driver like Bubba.
Yeah, I think that's probably the thing that was. This has probably been in the works for a while, which is why MJ and Denny might want to be a part of this thing. That they knew that this was going to be an opportunity because of Bubba's reach, and it's pretty neat. I mean, just to leave Coca-Cola for Dr. Pepper, I might have a few years ago said that's traitorous, but I do like Dr. Pepper. So, but I understand why you would want to be the singular face of a big brand like that, as opposed to being part of a Coca-Cola team.
I mean, the number just aligned perfectly with Dr. Pepper. There's no reason they shouldn't, with the 23 flavors and the 23 number and 23 Michael
100%.
Jordan. I mean, come on. You know what I mean? Like, that's match made in heaven. Kelly, what do you think?
It is. I mean, look, it all makes sense. I mean, I know everybody, when this was announced, when the team was announced, was saying 23 is a number you have to go to for many reasons. So I like how it's all shaping up. I honestly do. I think, with the sponsors, they make sense because they had all signed. Well, 4 of the 5 had signed with Bubba over the last couple months. Dr. Pepper's new. He had been a Coke driver. He's now with Dr. Pepper, but 4 of the 5 had signed with him in recent months because of the spotlight that he had put himself in, speaking out on social justice issues and the things he was doing off the racetrack. And that's what attracted them to him. And, he said yesterday, one of the reasons, they're sponsoring the race car is great, but the reason they're doing that is because they care more about what's going on off the racetrack and what he's doing and associated with. So it makes perfect sense. They were going to jump on the car. I think it's awesome that that car is fully funded, especially, so much in NASCAR, we talk about who's doesn't have money and what sponsors are leaving and who's trying to fill out races. And so to see that team fully funded is awesome. And again, to see it to where those partners said, hey, we're going to jump on the car. We want to support this team. But that's that's almost like a bonus to what Bubba is doing off the racetrack. So I like the people they got over there. I think Mike Wheeler is going to be great for Bubba. Obviously Denny Hamlin is all in. I think he's going to make a great leader. Steve Laletta as they say as the interim team president is helping get that team off the ground. And he's a veteran of motorsports. He spent 10 years as the team president of Chip Ganassi Racing. So as I wrote in my column today, there's just a lot of good people over there. There's a lot of good resources over there. And of course, being aligned with Toyota and Joe Gibbs, you can't get better than that. So I just like how everything's lining up for that team. I think the sponsors, the number, everything just makes sense. And it's going to look pretty damn cool when they officially roll out of the garage in February at Daytona.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think one of the things that's really cool about it for me, and Rusty probably has a similar perspective, if not the same, is that a big chunk of those 5 sponsors that are committed those are consumer brands. We as NASCAR, Joe Schmo and Jill, whatever, can go buy that product and support those sponsors. And, but yeah, I totally get what you're saying about Bubba off the track, because that's what marketing activation is what's happening off the track, not so much what's happening on, especially with all this other stuff we're dealing with last year.
Yeah. And speaking of the garage, rolling out of the garage, Hamlin on the NASCAR.com today, talking about how he wants to create the Google of race shops with this whole thing. And Kelly, you're laughing there. What's your reaction?
No, again, they had a media availability yesterday, and that's where that came from. And again, it was just talking about, they want to build a race team that's attractive to people, that people want to work there and basically don't want to go home. They want to make it a fun and a great state-of-the-art facility and state-of-the-art team. Look, Denny has been under the learning tree of one of the best in the business with Joe Gibbs. And, he's picked up stuff along the way, whether that's interacting with your partners, whether that is marketing and how to handle yourself and things like that. So, Denny's been in the best garage and in the best race shop in the sport, and he now wants to turn around and do that for what he and Michael Jordan and everybody involved are building. So I chuckle just because, not in a bad way, but I chuckle because I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome that Denny is putting so much back into the sport. Denny gets a rough rap sometime, right? Because he's never been the most popular guy, and people are quick to criticize him for what he hasn't done, which of course is a championship. But I've been stating this case for a while that I think it's absolutely amazing what Denny Hamlin does for the sport outside the race car. You have to remember Denny was one of the leading forces behind the Driver Council a couple years ago when that was all formed, which opened up a big door between NASCAR and the drivers. Now, granted, the actual formal Driver Council doesn't exist anymore, but again, that's because it led to a much more open communication between NASCAR and drivers. You look at what Denny does with feedback and all of his input when it comes to PJ1 or no PJ1 on racetracks and trying to help racetracks put that in the right place. And now he's doing it with a race team and giving Bubba Wallace a chance to run up front. And he wants to be in the sport long term. Again, this is not something that Denny Hamlin is coming in to do for a year or two just for the hell of it. From everything he has said and shown us, he wants to be hands-on. This is going to be his full-time job when he's no longer driving. And again, he wants to be like Joe Gibbs. He wants to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning and on the phone and walking the shop and talking to the guys and figuring out what they need to do to be better. So I think he's going to be a really good car owner because he's going to be really invested and he's really competitive. I don't think people realize just how competitive Denny Hamlin is, and again, just how much he really loves this sport. So to see him getting back to it in so many ways, and to see that evolution of him, the person, not just as a race car driver, but again, a person and a more well-rounded individual, and everything that he's doing off the racetrack is something that has really stood out to me.
Yeah. Well, I think so. We haven't had a chance to talk about this, you and I, Kelly, and I don't know that I've had this conversation with Rusty either. But one of the things that when this thing first started blossoming, and that we thought, there was all those things that happen in NASCAR, we can't keep stuff secret, and then this thing happens, and people were like, I don't know how. I mean, how could you run a race team and then race against your own car? And I'm like, did you forget about this guy named Dale Earnhardt? Who arguably owned the best Chevy team for probably 3 years posthumously. That team was better than Hendrick for a period of time. I mean, it worked for him. Why couldn't it work for Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin?
Well, again, I think it's because it's something that people are looking at to use as a criticism against Denny, because as soon as Denny doesn't run well, people are going to say, well, that's because he's probably too occupied with his race team and because he wants them to run well. That's, to me, that's what it's going to be, is people are going to use this as something against Denny Hamlin. I'm with you, though. I don't see why there's any reason why he can't do both. Again, when Denny is with the 11 team and when he's with Chris Gabehart has his full attention. That 11 team has his full attention. Now, during the week, if there's nothing going on with the 11 team, then Denny Hamlin is going to sit there and he's going to say, okay, what needs to be done with 2311 Racing? And right now, as he said yesterday, he's just enjoying whether it's looking through catalogs to pick out crew shirts for the team and what the team's going to wear and apparel and things like that. So yes, it's going to be a balancing act, and that's going to be something that he's going to have to figure out. But I truly believe when the race season starts and when he shows up at the racetrack, he knows what his job is. And his job is to go out and no pun intended, but to deliver for FedEx. Ew. And he knows he has to do that, and FedEx isn't going to accept anything less than that. So I think Denny will be perfectly fine balancing both. And again, in a weird, not a weird, but they're all under the same, or I should say, they're all the same team anyway, right? Because 2311 Racing is an alliance partner of Joe Gibbs Racing. They're under the Toyota umbrella. So everybody needs to succeed here. They're all going to have the same stuff. It's all the same people. They're all going to be in the same competition meetings. So nobody's going to sabotage anything. Like I said, Denny's not going to be, well, I need to be good over here. I don't think it's going to be a problem. And again, it's not like Denny's doing this all on his own. He's got some really great people over there. And I'm sure MJ on his side has great people from his side that are handling all of this. So I'm not worried about that at all. But again, if we get 2-3 months into the season and Denny Hamlin's being, running terribly, then of course the questions are going to naturally pop up that, oh, he's distracted and things like that. But I personally don't see that happening.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Rusty.
One thing I was just thinking about when you were talking about MJ is how's that first either driver's meeting or press conference or whatever it is where MJ is there, and I hadn't even thought about that. Sherwin, we might just be walking through a media center at Atlanta or Michigan or wherever it is, and that's Michael Jordan. That's interesting. Like, I don't know where to put my hands. I don't know how to deal with this.
And that's how powerful it is to build upon what Kelly said. And I want to build upon what you mentioned about Hamlin saying, I want to build the Google atmosphere of a race team. Well, he's going to have to do that because he's going to have people that are making decisions while he's picking T-shirts out of a catalog. Somebody's going to have to be making, race team decisions when he's busy doing exactly what Kelly said, which is delivering results for FedEx. Mm-hmm.
So, Sherwin, you mentioned Dale Earnhardt a few minutes ago, and I found this really funny headline that kind of mirrors something that happened a few years ago, or last year as well. But apparently over at Mecum Auto Auctions, that seems to be on was on like Speed Channel every other day for a long time there. But they auctioned off what they called the DEI chassis number 1. And Dale Jr. was like, I'm pretty sure I have that sitting over here in my collection. I don't know what they're talking about. And it sold for $50,000. And apparently last year, one car was listed at auction at Mecum again, and it was listed as a championship winner with Richard Childress. Well, Richard Childress has saved every car that Dale Earnhardt ever ran, and so Richard Childress was like, huh. So he ran off into the back room where they have the Richard Childress Museum, and he's like, no, that's the car right there, and that's not the one they're auctioning. This is interesting. So I've been intrigued by these stories of the guys being like, that car that you say you're rolling across the auction block right there, I take a little picture, put it on Instagram. Here's the car that you think you have. So I've been intrigued by this fake car nonsense going on.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, and this is kind of in a different vein, but similar in that there was a very particular car that Dale Sr. raced that Dale Jr. wanted, and he knew it was out there running around somewhere. So he chased it down, and he finally figured out that they thought they had it at Mecum, and Rick was there. And he was like, Rick, I need you to buy this car, and I don't care what they want for it. Because he had done all these studying of the pictures, and he had talked to, is it Robert G.? The G's used to build the chassis for that Dale raced in the 80s. And he's like, well, there was something really specific about what Dale Earnhardt would do with this coupling that would keep the drive shaft from, doing what happened to Tony Stewart in his sprint car, basically. It was a collar that he had, built on his, one of his, when Dale still had a lot of influence over how the car was built. It was like, nobody else was doing this. So if you can get up underneath that car and take a picture of it and you see this, more than likely that's the right car. So he ended up with that car, by the way, and he would not disclose how much he spent to get it. It was probably well into the crooked six figures, I would imagine.
Yeah. Kelly, have you followed that at all?
Yeah, I see headlines like that sometimes, and it always makes me chuckle because it's like, how do you really know, right? Like, how do you know that person who claims that they have some piece of history actually has the actual car, right? Or the actual piece or whatever it is. So that always makes me chuckle. But I am interested in stuff like that because I find that stuff fascinating. I find, unique and rare things like that really fascinating. I'm the type of person that loves to go to museums because it's like, wow, that if you read about something or you hear about something or you see an event that happened, to actually go see something that's actually associated with it is really, really cool to me. So I get why, whether it's race cars or personal cars, things like that are very popular and they go for a lot of money. But again, it makes you think, is that really the actual car, or how do you really know that somebody's not going to pull the wool over your eyes, or how do you know that they didn't get the wool pulled out over their eyes, wherever they got it from? So whenever I see those headlines pop up, it makes me chuckle, if it turns out that it actually was, in the case of Dale Jr., when he went through that whole thing of looking for markings on chassis and roll bars and things like that. Yeah. But then it also, it makes you sad when you find out that somebody got duped.
Yeah. Well, I'll say the cojones on somebody to be like, I have this car, and the person who owns the car is alive and it's in their garage is like, that's pretty, that's laying it on pretty thick right there.
Not just that, but and it's pretty well known that Dale Jr. pays a whole lot of attention to those auto auctions because of trying to find that magic piece that he thinks needs to fill out his studio of cars, so to speak. It's like, hey, not only does this person know a lot about trying to find these things, like, he's already got the car you're trying to sell. Like,
yeah.
I mean, like, just good thing it's not live for whoever's trying to sell it, because Dale will just call and be like, nah, that's not.
Well,
thing.
maybe that's worth a call from Dale Earnhardt Jr. Hey, why not?
Yeah.
Also this week, NASCAR announcing that we're running the full COTA track, 3.41 miles, 20-turn course. Kelly, what was your reaction to that? I know there was, I think it was like a 2.2 mile kind of condensed course that they were looking at, and then they finally said, nah, we're going with the whole F1 deal.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly had not put a whole lot of thought into it one way or the other. I wasn't really rooting for one track or the other. I honestly didn't even know that they had just a smaller track. So I was used to the longer course anyway, and I think that's what most people are familiar with. So again, I hadn't put much thought into it personally, hadn't really attached myself to what the layout was going to be. I think I just honestly expected it to be the full course layout. I think what was more interesting in the announcement is hearing them talk about, some of the things they're going to have to do to prepare for stock cars and the trucks to come, which is, extending pit wall and putting some tire packs up in certain places, looking at those high impact, what could be high impact, high speed areas, and putting more scoring loops in, because we know NASCAR uses scoring loops, and more caution lights so the drivers can see what's going on. So I thought that was more fascinating than really getting too attached to what the course was going to be. So I was more interested in that and the work that's going to have to go in and making sure they're prepared for stock cars and trucks.
Well, they're probably taking even a closer look at things now because of what happened with Grosjean and the Armco. And why was Armco here? Why wasn't there something else? And a car that weighs 2.5x that, they probably need to take a closer look.
Yeah, there's some inertia and momentum associated with that kind of weight. So, yeah.
Well, I think typically at the NASCAR road courses, if there's not safer walls up, there's the tire packs or tire barriers, whatever you want to call them. Anyway, I don't think that we still race anywhere that has exposed walls or certainly not just guardrails like that F1 track did, where Grosjean was injured. So I think again, when I say that they're going to put in tire barriers or tire packs, I think it's because they're looking at areas that with the stock cars or the trucks, it could be high impact areas for them. And they're probably just looking for additional ways to make sure that they are regulated as NASCAR regulates them. And maybe they will be covering up some of those exposed walls or guardrails that F1 races with. But again, I can't recall any road course that we go to that has anything exposed like that. Normally, again, look at the biggest example I can use is just look at Charlotte. I look at all the tire barriers. I mean, Chase Elliott drove head on into one, a couple years ago. So if it's not a wall that has a safer barrier, we've got tire packs all over the place. So I don't expect any part of any of the road courses we go to have anything exposed like what Grosjean hit.
Yeah, not to mention he won that race after hitting that tire barrier headlong. Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen something really awful with an exposed wall since it was it Newman and Gordon and Sam Hornish at Watkins Glen.
Wow. Throwing it back. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a few. I think Gordon also hit one at Vegas in one of his final years. You don't want to jinx it, so everybody knock on wood, because every time we say that we've taken care of something, we have a crash or a driver find something that needs to be closely looked at, whether again it's hitting at a wall that you don't think they're going to hit, whether it's Kyle Busch in Daytona, or again look at Gordon at Vegas. I don't even know what year that was.
Sadler at Pocono.
Yeah. So I don't want to jinx it and say that we've completely covered our basis, but I think we're a hell of a lot better off than where we used to be. So,
this is one of those math nerdy statistic things that Rusty and I'll talk about every now and again. With the reality is, you can't test enough to find all the weird places a race car might end up.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, and I think that's what some of the drivers have said is, unfortunately, you don't know where to put a safe wall or you don't know where to put a tire barrier until, unfortunately, that driver finds it. So again, I think and I hope we're past that. I think we've now, a lot of those drivers like Elliott Sadler or Kyle Busch or Jeff Gordon, I think have found all of those unfortunate angles and places to hit. So I think, obviously a lot of that will go into NASCAR's, past research and past experiences now that they're getting Circuit of the Americas ready for when stock cars and trucks come there next year.
Yeah, I think you both bring up a good point in that even if we haven't hit it, we've proven enough that you can't go, well, they'll never hit that. Like it's that argument is out the window now. So they're going to find a way to hit it. So you better safeten it up if I make up a word here.
I don't know what year that Gordon crash was in Vegas. Obviously, it was one of his final years. It might have been 14 or 15. That's right. It was Chris is yelling. It was actually it was 08 because it was the car.
I was going to say 07 or 08 because it was the COT.
Had that stupid ass wing on the back of the car. Now that I'm really thinking about it, that Vegas crash. If you go watch that Vegas crash, I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. That crash is the classic example of you don't expect them to hit there until they hit there, and then realize that we should probably put a safer barrier up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that crash because what we talked about was how far away from the car the radiator ended up. Just like with Sadler and his motor, and when they finally panned out and they go, well, there's the car, there's Elliott Sadler, he's shaking up, and then they're like, oh, and the motor's like over there. You're like, what? So yeah,
I remember that crash just because of what stands out in my mind is the first off the violent head-on impact. First off,
yeah.
Then when it shot the car back, I think it spun around a couple times too, if I'm remembering correctly, and it was a very violent accident.
Yard sale.
Yeah, it was the safety car inlet right after turn 2, and Jeff spun off 2, ended up hitting the inlet, the safety car, which if you spin at the right angle, all of a sudden you hit it head on.
Yeah,
and it spun and
wall. Yeah.
Yeah, and on the second spin, the radiator shot out like 200 feet away from the car. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, look out.
That was rough.
Other thing that's been announced, Darlington Throwback Weekend is moved to May. I think I saw Gluck say it, and maybe it's speaking the collective voice here, but he's saying that this is a good move in that the fall race is now in the playoffs. So all attention on the playoffs then, and we can have our fun with the throwback stuff in May. I thought that was a good argument or whatever. I guess on the flip side, it's like, does that mean that the throwback stuff is just kind of our circus or something? Like, this is a real race where people are trying to win and stuff, but I'm not. That's just me being cynical. I think it's a fine move. I'm cool with it. All good on Rusty's end, and we'll be sure to park ourselves over at Darlington in the spring.
I was going to say, to me, this makes so much sense because you want the attention on the second Darlington race to be about the playoffs. And it's also, by the way, it's Labor Day weekend. So for us, that's a football weekend now, especially the way they've front and back loaded that whole weekend with huge games. I would much rather go in May and be like, yeah, let's do some nostalgia stuff in May. Like, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But lots of people lost their mind over that thing.
I don't like change.
It's supposed to be on Labor Day weekend. I'm like, we only been doing this for like 6 years officially as a marketing tool.
Yeah.
I've got a Casey Kane car. This is from, and I broke the damn spoiler off, but you can see it's the old COT with still a splitter on it, which means that's 2009. Yeah. And that's a throwback. That's a Bill Elliott, Junior Johnson paint scheme. It's like, we've been doing this for a minute. They just didn't put the full power of the marketing behind it. And by the way, that car ran in May, not Labor Day, because they didn't have the Labor Day race in, because it was in Atlanta in 2009.
Sherwin dropping knowledge. I love it. That is.
I get excited sometimes.
Every bit of that makes total sense to old Rusty. How about you, Kelly?
Yeah, well, Sherwin, I mean, you've said the right word there. You eventually got around to it. It's all about marketing. And I had some people on my Twitter timeline who were saying the same thing. They were all worked up over something that in the grand scheme of things, we should not be worked up over. But it's marketing. It's all about marketing. And the two main components here are, first off, you mentioned the playoffs. So now Darlington has something to market that may race around to get people just more interested in paying attention to it. Because as any racetrack knows, when you have 2 dates, you have to do twice as much marketing to get people to come to your racetrack and pay attention to your races. So for Darlington, it gives them something to focus that May race around. And the second thing when it comes to marketing is, let's be honest, this is a business, and there's going to be sponsors, and these are just my theories, but there's going to be sponsors and partners on these race cars that may not want to give up their paint scheme because it is now a playoff race to do a throwback paint scheme. And so, they want to be focused on the playoffs and not just on the racetrack, but maybe with their paint scheme. They don't want to give that up. So it sounds trivial and it sounds really kind of stupid, but again, it gives Darlington a chance to market that May weekend around something. And for partners and sponsors, if they don't want to give up their race weekend in a playoff race, now they don't have to worry about it. You can do it in May.
Exactly. 100%.
Well, y'all, I have been excited before, knowing that somebody, some band that I happen to follow is doing the national anthem or has a pre-race show or something like that. Sherwin, last week we talked about Nashville and the new logo and everything they have. Well, sir, this week it is announced that Joe Nelms will be expected to deliver the invocation at Nashville in 2021. Now, if you don't recognize a name, you will recognize Boogity 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 Amen. And that is Mr. Joe Nelms.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think
I've
ever been.
Hot wife is going to be there.
I don't think I've ever been excited. This is no disrespect to anybody, but I don't think I've been excited about an invocation before. But the fact that this makes news means, he's doing the right things, man. So I'm looking forward to Joe Nelms in Nashville. Nashville is doing all the right things right now. The new logo, with the guitar neck and everything that we talked about last week, doing the Joe Nelms thing. I mean, everything is shaping up to be an awesome Nashville weekend. And, I'm excited about that. And sure, when you texted me that, like, hey, if Nashville's going to be a thing, we need to go get ourselves on a list. And so it sounds like we need to go ahead and get ourselves on said list and see what, pans out in this whole what have you, as I've said before. But
we may actually have to try to find our avenue through the media place to even get a ticket to that thing. But Nashville, the more information's coming out of that place. Obviously, Fairgrounds is where the old school guys, everybody wants them to race at the Fairgrounds. But come to find out, if 2020 hadn't got so weird, they were deep into conversations about how to run a street race in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that too.
There's
so
that.
Nashville's pretty committed to being involved in the Cup part of NASCAR racing going forward, which is pretty cool because it's a great town.
Yeah, yeah. How excited are you, Kelly, for the Nashville race?
Yeah, I'm excited. I know everybody wants to go to the Fairgrounds, and I would love to see that too. But again, I'm not going to get upset over something that I have no control over. So I'm interested to see how it shakes out after so many years away from that racetrack. They're putting a ton of work in to get that facility ready and to just upgrade it because it's sat dormant. It hasn't had a Cup race in 30 years. A Cup race. I know it's had other racings, but it hasn't had a Cup race, I don't think, in 30 years. So they're putting a lot of work into promoting that racetrack. Like you mentioned, just a logo and the things they're doing on social media, putting out all of their different videos and all their announcements. So I'm excited about it. I heard actually the track president, I think it's Eric Moses, was on Sirius last week just talking about everything that they're doing to that facility to make it a top-notch facility. I mean, down to things like Wi-Fi and updating suites and press boxes to washing the racetrack, the grime away, and updating, stuff like that. I mean, he rattled off a list that some of them were pretty obvious, making sure it has safer barriers, things like that.
Put on deodorant for the first time in 3 years. And
yeah. And then, he's going through this list of things that they're doing at this racetrack. And my eyes were kind of widening as he was talking on Sirius XM because I was like, it's some of the stuff you don't even think of because, again, that track and that facility has just sat for so long. So I will say when I was in Nashville this time last year for the banquet that, granted it was the first time we had the event there. So obviously there was a lot of excitement around it, but that town seemed to really welcome NASCAR with open arms. They seemed really excited that NASCAR was there, and not just for the events that we had during that Champions Week, the few days that we were there, whether it was the burnouts, which were spectacular. There were so many fans there. I mean, the place, the sidewalks were packed. They had music and lights and spotlights and all this stuff and all of this, but they had signage all around town letting people know that NASCAR was there. It was very, very visible that NASCAR was in town. And then even when Champions Week was over, I had stayed for a couple of days just to explore on my own. And I'll never forget, I was in a store with one of my friends and overheard people talking in the next aisle saying, "Hey, is the NASCAR people still here? Or are they still in town? What's going on?" So they seemed really excited again to have everybody in town. So I'm going to be really curious to see how that race weekend goes, what the reception is going to be. I hope it's a race that can have fans in some capacity. I would love if it could be full grandstand. I don't know if that will happen. I would love for it to be one that could have a full grandstand, because I'm just going to be really curious to see the reception in Nashville as a whole to NASCAR, because again, when we were there last December, it went really, really well. So again, I know they're excited. They're putting a lot of work in. They're ready to welcome everybody back, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think Nashville's a good fit. It checks out pretty good.
I'll have to apologize. I did say put on deodorant for the first time in 3 years. I meant to say, for all the Southern folks out there, put on the smell good for the first time in 3 years. So, with apologies there, we correct, got it right, and still offended the same number of people. So that's.
So I one of the first things that they had put out on social media back when it was announced that we were going to Nashville is, I think one of their very first things on their official Twitter page or somewhere, it was somewhere, was there were pictures. There was before and after pictures of them just washing off the racetrack. Just simple, it was probably just power washing the racetrack, right? The racing surface. And you could see before and after pictures of what it looked like. And I remember tweeting about how, Nashville's coming back to life. And somebody had replied, basically just asking, is it necessary? Just leave it as it is, or something to that effect. And it made me chuckle, because I'm like, this track's been sitting dormant for how long? I mean, you can't just leave the racing surface as it is. I mean, you literally have to power wash the racing surface.
You want the tree sap and the bugs. I need all this stuff. Come on. That's real racing.
Yeah, it's not as simple as just slapping some paint on the walls. I mean, they are putting in a ton of work to that facility, and that includes cleaning off the racing surface.
Yeah. Well, anybody that's ever lived in the South with all the rain and humidity that we've got knows that concrete gets pretty damn nasty after just a couple of years of not giving it any treatment.
Absolutely. Yeah. And talk about slick.
Yeah, those pictures were actually really, really cool when they posted the before and after.
I'm about to go look that up.
To see the difference in color of the racetrack after it had been cleaned was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well,
it's probably like the way Notre Dame changed when they refinished the limestone. It was like black, and then it was like, oh wow, it started off as like this really cool beige color. I got it.
Yeah. Just uncover history there a bit. We're running up on the end of the show here. Kelly, what are you looking forward to most in 2021? We've got current gen car for one more year, but we've got all these road courses coming up, and a lot of stuff to be excited about. 2311 team. What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, there's a lot, to be honest with you, because there's a lot that's changing going into 2021, and it's just the start before we go into 2022 and beyond. And I had said that even before this pandemic changed everything, that the 2021 going into 2022 was going to be really, really crazy. So I'm actually, I think at some point this off season, going to put together a list of all the changes as well as things that I'm excited about. But since you asked, I'm excited for obviously 2311 to see what they're going to do, because I really want to see what Bubba can do. You know, I really truly believe he has talent. And now, as he said yesterday when I asked him, you know, that quote you're seeing floating around where he says, you know, no more excuses, you know, that came from something that I asked him. And I want to see that, you know, no more excuses why he can't run up front when he's going to be, as much as people don't want to hear it, he's going to be in a fifth Gibbs car. So I'm looking forward to that. I want to see what Chase Briscoe can do in that 14, even though it's only 1 year in the current car that we have. You know, just him adapting to Cup Series racing is going to be fun to watch. Again, maybe not so much performance and finishes, because Cup racing is hard, and I know everybody expects these guys to jump into this series and be winners, but I mean, look, Tyler Reddick, it's taken time for him to get his feet underneath him, and we know he's a talented race car driver. So I'm more interested in following Chase Briscoe and just how he adapts to racing, the actual racing of the Cup Series and things like that. But again, I mean, it's a long list. The schedule, I think, is going to be really, really interesting. You know, only about 8 races that are going to have practice or qualifying. So which teams continue to adapt to that? There's so much, honestly, there's so much. And I'm going to sit down here during the off season and really dig into stuff like that. But I'm just excited because I think the moral of the story is there's just a lot of change. And I love when stuff is different. I love when things are different and it gives you things to look forward to and to write about and to focus on. And we have that. We have that with the schedule and different drivers at different teams. And, you know, Kyle Larson, right? Kyle Larson coming back. What is he going to do? So there's just, there's so much. And we also are still preparing for next gen. And then we get to dig into that in 2022, and things are going to change again. And, you know, does the schedule change even more going into 2022? So I honestly, not just from a writing perspective, but I still am a fan at heart. I just love when we can go into seasons where there's just storylines galore. It's not going to be status quo. And I don't think we're going to have that anymore in NASCAR for some years to come, because, again, there's just lots of changes, and there's going to continue to be changes, and I think that's a good thing.
I love what you said about the article kind of summarizing or bulleting all of these changes and things to look forward to. You mentioned Chase Briscoe. By the way, December 15th, Chase Briscoe's birthday. So happy birthday today to Chase Briscoe, 26 years old today. So definitely looking forward to what he's going to be doing in that 14 car. With that, Sherwin, anything else to close us out? We're about running out.
No, I mean, obviously looking forward to a lot of the same things Kelly said. Main thing I'm looking for is the right conditions of society and public health for us to have another happy hour at the Blind Parrot.
I want to go to a NASCAR race so bad. I can't stand it.
I just want to go to a damn race.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. Oh, I just got goosebumps. You can't see them because I got long sleeve on, but dadgum, that might creep up my neck at this point. Kelly, why don't you close us out? Tell the folks where they can find you. What's coming up next?
Like I said, I mean, I'm sure there's some feature stuff I'll dig into here during the off season. I mean, I know we're already in the middle of December, but it feels like the season ended yesterday. So lots to come still on the website, lots to come still on the podcast. I haven't had a new episode this week. I don't know when that's going to pop up again, but I've told people just, you know, check your podcast feeds every once in a while. And if not, it'll be back definitely next year. So racer.com, the Racing Riders podcast, and everybody knows you can just Google my name and all of the social media platforms will come up. But mostly Twitter and Instagram are your best bets.
There you go. And Racing Riders podcast, love the guests every time. Sherwin, close us out. What's going on?
All right. Well, we're going to take next week off, do some Christmassy stuff, and then we're going to have Brian Murphy from Stewart Haas Racing on the 29th. I'm flying to Detroit. Brandon and I are going to cobble together some kind of wild cuss word show on on the 30th, and I'm going to spend it up there being cold but having fun with him. You can find us at PTM Podcast in all the normal places, and me at Andrew L. Sherwin So that's that.
There we go. Y'all know what the deal is. PTMpodcast.com. At PTM Podcast. As always, I'm Rusty Wallace at Tailgate Mayor. Can't wait to talk to y'all in 2 weeks. Have a great Christmas. And, get all the loot. Enjoy the presents. And we'll talk to y'all in a couple weeks. That's a wrap. Still live on YouTube, but we have closed out the podcast. Awesome. That was fun, guys. I enjoyed it.
The first time that I've actually heard the music.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, Zoom is, we keep talking about it. Like, we finally went into the next century with Zoom instead of Skype. It's something that, we'd used Skype for so long. It was the powerhouse of communication for so long. And then earlier during COVID, we were kind of like, well, let's switch over to Zoom. And I got the paid account or whatever, so you don't have to just have 45-minute episodes. And, yeah, it's working out really well for guests and everybody, especially with Sherwin moving off to North Carolina and all that over close to you, Kelly. And, being able to have that extra bit is great. So.
Yeah, trust me, I'm quite familiar with the Zoom.
Yeah. Who's the next guest or latest guest? And I don't know what's coming up next in the podcast world.
Zane Smith was last week, and I mean, like I said, I don't have anything scheduled for right now. I mean, there might be one that pops up maybe before the end of the year, or I might just start saving stuff and getting things ready for the first couple episodes of whenever I launch it back up next year. So Zane Smith was last week, and that's the last scheduled one that I have. Because I normally don't do it in the off season anyway, because it's a lot of work to just get people scheduled during the year and then having to do more to get it recorded, before the year's over, because, you may not track people down during the off season. So we'll see. I honestly just play it by ear during the off season. If I can talk to people, I'll talk to people. If not, we'll kick it up, going into next year.
Well, it's funny you say that because we talk about the off season being like this dead period in the world. Oh my God, we have all this, Rusty and I committed to not taking weeks off just because, we get to talk about stupid stuff like movies or whatever, because nobody cares if we, deviate from the path of racing at a time when there's no other content to be had anyway. But what I've discovered is this is like the third year in a row that it's just like, yes. And they're like, oh crap. Like our whole, I think we're covered till like it's time to talk about Daytona.
Yeah, honestly, the only reason that I have episodes that went up to last week is just because people had started saying yes, and I recorded some of them before the year was over, and then a few of them I did after the season was over because people were still around and they wanted to do it. But I normally don't. I normally don't ask people during the off season because, again, you just don't think people are going to be around or people aren't going to want to do anything. So I don't even worry about doing it during the off season.
Well, and you're obviously, you're asking a different kind of guest for the most part. Right. Y'all media folks are really good about helping out us little guys, but I'm not trying to chase down Chase Elliott because I know that's not a possibility.
Yeah. I just assume no drivers or anybody are going to be around. So I just don't even ask. If I really wanted, if I really wanted to, I could ask, but it's not something that I focus on during the off season because I don't think most people are probably listening or paying attention anyway, because I see kind of like the numbers and things go down a little bit. So I would rather just keep it during the season anyway.
Yeah.
But that's just
Yeah, I have to get it. I saw that Blaney had some media availability via Zoom either today or yesterday, and a man's got a beard on him now. That's a man's beard.
Yeah, that was this morning. He it reminds me of someone, but I can't think of who it is. I'll remember after, of course, as always, I'll remember after we're done talking, but it reminds me of, like, the coloring and everything reminds me of something, but I can't think of what it is.
It reminded me of some of like the Western characters from like the Clint Eastwood days that had just, you can't even see his mouth because his mustache is so long, and like there's some mysteriousness there.
Yeah, that's a hell of a beard though, and it looks like it's full too. That's the impressive part.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, we always admire people that can grow good beards because some of us kind of have to patch it together.
Hey, I wanted to ask you guys: did any of you watch the Motor Trend series?
No, I wish I could say yes, so I could answer whatever question you would want to
No, I
ask
was just
about it.
curious if anybody watched it. I hadn't seen any feedback from it, so I was just curious. I thought it was. I'm not just because I was in it, but I honestly thought it was really good. And I thought the one that they did back in January and February, leading up to the 500, was really good. So I was just curious what fans thought, because I think we need more documentary style stuff in NASCAR. We have all these dumbass movies like Talladega Nights and stuff like that doesn't isn't the best representation of NASCAR. So I wish we had more documentary style stuff. So I was just curious. I didn't know if anybody.
Yeah, it would be nice to have, I mean, something along the lines of like what the E60 series is. NASCAR's to this point has only gotten to be the focal point of 130 for 30, and
Yeah.
there's still a ton of stories that could be told. I made a point in my mind, go, I got to go find that thing, is because I saw your tweet about it and I was like, oh, Kelly's in one of these things. I'm damn sure watching this. And then I completely forgot about it because new jobs, new everything. I've forgotten about a lot of stuff. I didn't even know what day Christmas was. So, I mean,
Yeah. No, I look ridiculous in it, but again, I wish there was just more documentary stuff, and I wish it wasn't behind a paywall in this case, because I think people would really enjoy. I mean, it's only $5, but it's like I don't know. I tell people all the time. I think the F1 series that Netflix has is just phenomenal. I mean, it's like my most favorite thing, and I really, really wish we had that in NASCAR. I don't know if teams would be as open as what the F1 people are doing with that. And if you haven't seen it on Netflix, I can't recommend it. I tell everybody about it. I tell NASCAR drivers to go watch it because it's phenomenal. And in a perfect world, I would love to have something like that in NASCAR.
yeah, something that's like in the now, but
Yeah,
it's historical in a lot of ways. It's documentary like in a way. This is what's actually really happening right now. I mean, I can't tell you. I don't know how many times I've watched the Nicky Lauda and Hunt. That what was that movie called? Rush.
oh, it was so good.
I can't tell you how. It's at least 10, and same thing Ford versus Ferrari. I've seen that at least 10 times. I bought them both on Amazon. I'm like, I'm gonna watch it whenever I want. Damn it, because they're just awesome movies about racing. But that's the kind. I'm with you. I'm like, Junior's getting a little closer doing that historical show on Peacock, going to the dead racetracks or whatever you want to
Well,
call them.
the thing that I love about the way that I sell the Netflix documentary as if I work for Netflix, the way that I sell it to people, and the reason why I want it in NASCAR is because I watch F1, but I really did not watch it as much as I do now after seeing that documentary. And the reason is because I just didn't understand F1. I didn't understand how people could watch a series where the same guy is going to win 17 times. Like I don't get it, right? Like you just know what's going to happen before it happens. But what the Netflix series did was it explains, and when it follows these teams, it just perfectly explains and showcases that these teams know they're not going to win. Like these teams know they're racing for fourth. Like if they're in that 4th to 8th range, right? Like the midfield guys, as Chris is over here.
Chris, come over here and get on the damn camera if you're going to make all that damn racket over there.
Yeah. You're making so much racket. So the Netflix series did a great job showcasing how these teams know who they are and what they're racing for and why it's a big deal to them. And I feel like if we had that in NASCAR, if we could showcase that not every team is a winning team and that's okay, and why it's a big ass deal when a team like JTG runs top 10 or top 5, you know, or who's racing for that 15th to 20th place. Like not everybody's going to be a winner, but it's okay to show that there's more stories in the field type of deal. And I think that would do a lot in NASCAR, because I feel like a lot of those teams get criticism of, why are you showing up if you're not going to win? And there's just more to racing than that. And I wish we had that in NASCAR to highlight these teams that they know they're not racing for first, they're racing for 15th, and that's going to be a big ass day for them.
Yeah, well, that was a big part of the conversation that we had with Bob Levine, was talking about how, you know, they made the leap from 23rd to 20th with Briscoe, even though it looked like De Benedetto's numbers were probably better numbers, if you, depending on which column you choose to look at. But overall, they finished 3 spots better, and it's like, that is a big deal.
Yeah. When I was on Sirius last week, I think it was the Monday night show that I co-hosted. We talked to no, it was might not have been, whichever one it was. We talked to Greg Irwin of Wood Brothers Racing, Matt Benedetto's
used
crew
to
chief.
be Greg Biffle's crew chief.
Right, and he talked about, they finished, what was it, 13th in points, I believe it was, or something to that effect. And he talked about how that's a successful year for them, right? Like, that's a big deal for them, and, you know, how great it was, and all this other stuff. And it reminded me of this conversation that I have with people of, that's a story that needs to be highlighted, because for that team, that's a big deal that they finished 13th in points after, you know, the last couple of years where they hadn't been in the playoffs and, you know, struggled with Paul Menard, and here they were, made the playoffs and contended for race wins. And again, I wish we had more of that in NASCAR. I wish we all, you know, myself included, us media, I wish we did a better job of highlighting, you know, the other teams and drivers of them having good days and why it's a good day.
Well, you picked a really good spot to focus on there, because if you think about the Wood Brothers and how few years they actually ran full seasons and competed for championships, that's probably their best overall finish. And I mean, since before I was born, 40-something years probably.
They made the playoffs a couple years ago with Blaney. Remember when he won that at Post?
Yeah, I guess this stretch is what I mean, is like,
yeah,
Wood Brothers, it's like a rebirth, so to speak.
Yeah, that one year that they ran full time with Blaney before he went over to Penske, they won at Pocono and they made the playoffs. I don't remember exactly where they finished in points, but that was, you know, like the biggest, you know, season they had. And let's be honest, then they struggled with Paul. They didn't make the playoffs. They were kind of irrelevant again. And now here they are again, running top 10 and in the playoffs. So it was a big deal for them. So to hear Greg say that, you know, again, it reminded me of, you know, we all need to do a better job of highlighting those days. And we need to teach fans to stop saying, you know, oh, well, you know, 15th is nothing. No, 15th for some people is a big deal. It's okay. Like, not everybody's going to win a race.
Well, our friend Tommy Joe Martins, 15th for him is winning the race.
Yeah.
That's winning the race, pretty much.
Yep.
And understanding why those goals are different. I need to watch that F1 series so I could maybe get my mind wrapped around wanting to watch that race, knowing that pretty much if you win the pole, you win the race.
Well, I think if you watch it, you may not want to watch an F1 race, but I think, again, you'll understand why it's important to highlight these teams, right? And to understand, for fans to understand that, again, there is so much that goes in for these race teams and why it means so much to them. And again, you may not want to watch an F1 race, but you'll certainly understand, you know, why these teams are celebrating what they're celebrating and why they work so hard. And you mentioned Tommy Joe Martins. Again, that's a perfect example. If we, you know, if NASCAR or documentary followed him and people understood that, then when he finished 15th, the fans would be celebrating, right?
Exactly.
It's just, yeah. Kind of my little tangent for the night, but I just.
No, it's good. This is perfect after dark. We haven't even said the F word, and we've actually said something that I think most of the people haven't left yet, because they're like, whoa, they're talking about real stuff. This is interesting.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I love that F1 documentary. I honestly do tell a lot of people about it because, again, I think there's a lot of comparisons to draw to NASCAR, and hell, I can't wait for the next one they're going to put out on this season with all the stuff that they've had gone on over there. So, they've had as many headlines as we have. So.
For sure. And the thing is, despite the fact we know how much different the cars look and how much different the money expenditure is, it's still kind of the same arms race with the OEMs. You can't buy anything that looks like an F1 car, but Mercedes and Renault and Audi and Ferrari they're in it.
Yeah.
They're in it to win it.
It's so good. It's so interesting, the access that those F1 teams gave the camera crew and the documentary crew because, again, I mean, you're right in shops and debriefing and you're with the drivers as they're doing their, day-to-day, week-to-week basis. And, they're talking to, Daniel Ricciardo before he left wherever it was and he went to Renault. I mean, they were there through that whole thing.
He left Red Bull Ferrari, I believe.
Yeah.
To go to Renault, yeah.
So they were there for that whole thing. And again, I mean, the money situation, I mean, the teams are upfront about, what they do and don't have and what they're racing for and what they can do. And then, of course, you get the fun moments where Gunther is on the phone with Gene Haas saying, we look like a bunch of effing wankers. I mean,
right. Well, it's that scene from Days of Thunder, right? A monkey bleep and a football. But their version of that.
Yep. Yeah, we look like a bunch of effing wankers. Chris and I say that to each other all the time because it makes us laugh. That's legitimately in the show. So, yeah, it's good.
I think I know what I'm going to watch tonight. I guess I'm not going to listen to any more podcasts tonight. So.
No, I highly recommend it. Go watch the first season and then go watch. I think there's 2 seasons on there now. And I would assume the one they just filmed, obviously, this year would be their 3rd season. So, it'll probably
and it's a Netflix product?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm good to go then.
I think it's called Driven to Survive or Drive to Survive or something like that. So I'll
figure it out.
I think the new season's it'll probably drop in like January, February, because obviously they just got done. So.
Yep. Well, you know what else is dropping right around the corner? Season 3 of Cobra Kai. Have you been watching that?
I'm out of the conversation now.
I was the perfect age for Karate Kid, so I'm really enjoying this sort of not a reboot. It's because it's not a reboot. It's a continuation.
Yeah,
an anthology, so to speak.
Chris has been laughing at me because the pandemic hit, and I started binge watching a lot of stuff that I'd never seen before, and I had not watched much of The Office, so I actually sat down and watched it from start to finish. So I've now seen every episode of The Office. I watched Parks and Rec.
That's like 180 episodes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So listen, here's the list, okay? Because it makes me chuckle, and I'm going to put this on social media. I'm going to put this on Twitter one day. It might be tonight. So I've watched every season now of The Office. I went and watched every season of Parks and Rec. I rewatched every season of The Newsroom on HBO, which is another thing I cannot recommend enough.
Oh, the first episode, you're hooked. You'll stay there the rest of the time.
Oh, yeah. First 5 minutes of the first episode.
Right.
So rewatched all of that. I just finished all 7 episodes of Reno 911, which if you have not seen that, it is the stupidly best thing ever.
Yeah.
It was on Comedy Central for a long time, so you know exactly what type of show you're getting, and it is stupidly good. It is stupid. It is stupid, but it is fun stupid. And so I just went and watched all of that. I know there's some other things in there I'm missing. Again, I have to go and make a list, and I'm going to put it on. Well,
I got some that aren't funny for you if you haven't got to them yet.
Well, so currently I am on season 3 of Ballers, The Rock.
Oh, Ballers is fantastic.
Yeah, so I had never watched that. I just, I'm now on season 3, and I think there's only like 5 seasons, so I'm quickly making my way through that one now.
Yeah, that one's good. The Rock was awesome. Longmire, if you like anything related to sort of the westerny kind of TV show, but modern.
Yeah, I've heard it, yeah.
Yellowstone, of course. That you have to. You kind of just have to. There was one more. Oh, Bloodline with Kyle Chandler. Have you seen that?
I've heard it. I haven't checked that one out.
That's good stuff.
How could I forget? Schitt's Creek. I watched all.
So this is one that I've been hearing about that I have not dived into, whatever we're supposed to say. I'm not in there yet, but I'm gonna get in there because I've heard good things.
So I knew nothing about it. My sister kept texting me, watch this show. And I was like, okay, whatever. She texted me a few days later, have you watched it yet? No, I haven't watched it. And she started threatening me, through right, to watch this damn show. So we had a Saturday night race, whatever race it was. So Sunday morning, sitting around not doing anything. So she texted me again, and I was like, God damn it, I'll just put it on. So I put it on and watched the first episode, and I was like, oh, okay. Watch the second episode, and by the time I got to the second and third episode, I was like, okay, this shit's funny as hell. It is so freaking funny. And the best part is the mom of the show, her name's Moira Rose. Moira is Catherine O'Hara, who played Kevin's mom in Home Alone.
Oh, yeah. So
everybody knows Catherine O'Hara, right? You see her face and you think of Kevin's mom.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you will see her in a completely different light when you watch this show, because she is, in my opinion, the star of the show, because her character is so over the top ridiculous with the clothes, and she has wigs for every episode. It's a different wig, and it's a different color and a different shape, and it's just I watch that show and I'm memorizing lines of that show so I can use it as insults for people when they because the show's that freaking funny.
That's on the list for sure.
Schitt's Creek for me is like how people will watch Friends and The Office over and over again. It's just something you'll put on and it just makes you feel good. Schitt's Creek is that for me now. I just will put it on in the background or always have it on when I just need to laugh or relax, because it's just so easy and fun. And Catherine O'Hara is just unbelievable.
I thought she was great in Beetlejuice. She sneakily stole part of that movie.
Oh yeah, she's so good. The entire cast of Schitt's Creek though is unbelievable. They did an absolutely incredible job, and the gifts that have come from that show, and the promos, and it's so freaking funny. When you watch it, and again, the deeper you go into it, as you see the storylines and the characters develop, you will then understand why they won 27 Emmy or Emmy or whatever it was a couple months ago. You'll get it.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right, Rusty, you've been quiet. You got everything up on iTunes and everything?
Well, here's the crazy part is Podbean is acting a fool right now. I think I've got it all up, but I will have to double check. I had to do some computer hacky stuff to make this all work, but I think we're good. But
okay,
only one way to find out, and that is to press this button right here.
It's showing in my Podbean.
It's worth in there, and for £9, I think there we go. It does exist out there now. So yeah, we're up in most of the places. Only last thing to do is share this out on Twitter, and should be good to go. Yeah, Podbean was they're not doing. They're struggling right now, I guess.
Well, they need some feedback.
Yeah. Well, I had to do, like I said, there was some computer sciencey stuff that old Rusty had to make happen
That's why you're the one in charge of that shit over there.
So I think we are all good to go. I just need to pin that to the profile page. Done, and there we go. That is all the things that I normally do. Just way more hacky than usual. that took some doing. There you go. Podbean, fix your stuff.
Yeah, immediately. It's not like anybody else is podcasting right now.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we're not the only ones for sure, but
yeah,
that's funny.
Matter of fact, I texted over to Brandon. I was like, "Hey, Brandon, you having any issues?" And he's like, "I'm not seeing that, but I hadn't tried it earlier." So, anyway, whatever. Got it figured out. Not gonna deal with it anymore because it works. So
he's actually working as everybody's listening to what I've been doing during the pandemic.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Well, folks, we're getting to old Rusty's bedtime here shortly, considering my recent schedule and everything. But this has been fun.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I can't wait till we can actually meet up in person, Kelly. It's so weird to be this close to you and not be able to do that.
So far away.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll make something work.
Cool. Well, folks,
we haven't completely shut ourselves off from people, but we keep our bubbles small. So
yeah,
I'm pretty sure you're not sick, or you would tell me if you thought you were sick. So we might be able to let you into the bubble.
My facility is 100% COVID free, and we're masked all day long while we're there. So, and I wear a mask everywhere I go. So I'm on pretty good behavior.
Yeah. Well, we might be able to let you into the bubble, maybe for some Sunday football or something.
Okay, that sounds fun.
Sweet. I'm going to shut down the YouTube. Thanks, folks, for joining. See y'all.